Mark was on his way home from his friend's house when he missed his usual bus. He saw a bus pulling up to the stop, which he had never seen before. The bus was old and rickety, and the driver looked like he had been driving for decades. Mark approached the driver and asked him where the bus was going. The driver simply smiled and said, "The last bus of the night, son. Hop on." Mark thought it was strange, but he was tired and just wanted to get home. He got on the bus and noticed that there was no one else on it. The atmosphere was eerie, and Mark felt like he was being watched. As the bus drove through the city, Mark began to feel like they were heading in the wrong direction. The bus was taking strange turns, and soon enough, they were driving through a deserted area with no buildings inside. Mark tried to ask the driver where they were going, but he simply smiled and said, "We are almost there, son." The bus eventually came to a stop at an abandoned train station. The doors opened and Mark stepped out, looking around in confusion. He saw a shadowy figure in the distance and started to follow it. As he walked deeper into the station, the atmosphere grew more and more ominous. The air was thick with an unexpected darkness, and Mark couldn't shake the feeling that something was watching him. He finally reached the end of the station and he saw a dark portal that seemed to lead to another dimension. Suddenly, he felt a cold breeze on his neck and turned around to see a horde of demonic creatures standing behind him. Mark tried to run, but he was too late. The creatures surrounded him and dragged him into the portal, never to be seen again. Some say that the last mysterious bus still roams in the city, taking unsuspecting passengers to that sinister train station where they almost lost forever. If you ever see that old rickety bus, make sure you take a different route home, or you might end up like Mark. The new neighbors had moved into the house next door, and from the moment they arrived, something seemed off about them. The man and woman who moved in were always keeping to themselves, and the few times they were seen outside, they never smiled or acknowledged anyone. One night, Sarah was awoken by strange noises coming from the neighbor house. She looked out her window and saw the couple carrying large, heavy bags into their house. Sarah tried to ignore it, but the noises continued throughout the night, causing her to stay up all night. The next morning, Sarah noticed the couple was loading up their car with more bags, and their behavior was even more unusual. They were sweating and constantly looking around as if they were trying to make sure no one was watching. Sarah became more curious and decided to investigate. She snuck over to their house while they were out and looked through their window. She was horrified by what she saw. The entire living room was covered in what looked like blood, and there were strange tools and objects scattered all over the floor. As she was looking around, the couple returned home and caught her red-handed. They looked at her with an expressionless stare and then invited her inside to explain themselves. The couple revealed that they were part of a secret cult that practiced human sacrifices. They had been performing rituals for years and had just completed their latest ceremony. Sarah was horrified and tried to run, but it was too late. The couple caught her and dragged her into their basement, where they continued their dark rituals. No one ever saw Sarah again, and the couple was never caught by the police. Rumors spread throughout the neighborhood about what had happened, and people became more wary of new neighbors who exhibited strange behavior. To this day, some say that the house is still haunted by the ghosts of the victims of the cult, and that the new neighbors who moved in are still part of the same sinister organization. For her birthday, a little girl named Lily received a doll that looked just like her. It was an exact replica, right down to the curly hair and green eyes. She was thrilled with the gift and immediately took it everywhere she went, even sleeping with it at night. But as time passed, Lily began to notice strange things happening around her. Objects would move by themselves, doors would slam shut for no reason, and she heard whispering coming from her closet at night. She dismissed these things as her imagination and continued to play with her new doll. One night, as Lily was getting ready for bed, she heard a voice coming from the doll. It said her name, and then whispered something inaudible. Lily froze in fear and looked at the doll, but it was just sitting on her dresser, motionless. She tried to tell her parents, but they didn't believe her and dismissed it as a bad dream. As the weeks went by, the strange occurrences in Lily's room became more frequent and more intense. The doll seemed to move on its own, and Lily swore it would sometimes speak to her in the dead of the night. She became increasingly frightened and begged her parents to get rid of the doll, but they wouldn't listen. One night, while Lily was at school, her parents left the house to run some errands. When they returned, they found their front door unlocked and the house completely disarray. As they looked around, they found Lily's doll sitting in the middle of the room with a look of malevolence on its face. They quickly realized that the doll was possessed by an evil spirit, and they had to act fast to protect their family. They took the doll outside and buried it in the backyard, hoping to rid their home of the evil presence. But even after the doll was destroyed, strange things continued to happen in the house. The family eventually moved away, but Lily was never the same. She was haunted by the memory of the possessed doll and the terror it brought into her life. Some say that the evil spirit still lingers in the house, waiting for its next victim to possess.